it's been a long journey, and it's that thing that people know me. I've never been short to say what I want to say and do what I want to do in my own way. And the quieter side of me, the more passive version of me, would be Mr. Scott McIlroy. And I owe everything to this guy because he was the first guy to really get me into music when I never even knew who he was, never knew who Old Blue Eyes was. And he hates it when I do this stuff. But he'll hate it even more when I ask these mad questions and say I'm not a DJ for a start. He hates that one too. But without further ado, Scotty, man, it's been a long time, man, that we have been in this bloody story, which has unfolded into this mad apocalypse place where we are now, which who would have thought? But
strange times, my friend.
Strange times.
Strange fucking times.
I want to start, I'm not just blowing smoke, but I mean, anybody that knows this guy, to be that humble, I've shouted from the houses, and to be that humble and unconsciously make some of the biggest tunes we've ever experienced, to then kind of almost be overwhelmed with how it was received, I find fascinating, number one. And our story, I'm not here to just to be South Park's, as the episode that you sent me, Remember Berries either. Remember Berries? But I think it was really important that your musical icons that this audience might see, that has the 2.5 kids who might have bought Timeless and they like a bit of D&B and they've grown up on it. Back then, this was, I think, hearing of your music, and the first record I ever heard that turned my mind inside out was Deranged. And it was on a cassette, and it just fucking blew my mind. I was caught in at the time with the idea of Kemi and Storm and Kemi at Red or Dead and we get that. And I was courting with Reinforced, and I just met Mark at Astoria and get the number one, do the artwork. And that story's for another time. But the idea of hearing Deranged and this whole backwards, forwards thing and the vocal, and it was just, this is Deranged. And it just changed my life. It like changed it in a way that I didn't expect. I'd done hip hop, I'd done punk, I'd done everything. And you said the other day when I was really happy for the Guardian article, because I felt that the Guardian article, he got it so bang on, the idea of all these rave anthems. I mean, how do you feel about the fact that, Drums Original, which obviously I was quick to hear later on, not long after Deranged, when I finally got to meet the man behind the myth, Old Blue Eyes. How do you feel about where it came from, Scotty, in that respect?
It's interesting you talk about not being able to comprehend some of the music that I made, and that had a big impact on me when I couldn't write music anymore. When I got to the end of the 90s, and the 90s were a fucking blur for us all. Do you know what I mean? We got to the end of the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s, and I came to the sad conclusion in my own mind. I was like, I can't make music anymore because I couldn't make anything, in my mind anyway, that was on a par with anything that I'd done. And I only realized that after, once you stop, and then people tell you things, and then people do lists and this kind of thing and everything. It weighed too much on my mind, man. Do you know what I mean? I didn't have that freedom anymore. Back then, when I was 20, 21, or whenever I was writing those tunes, and some of those tunes I wrote when I was straight, some of those tunes I wrote when I wasn't straight. And I think you can tell the ones when I wasn't straight. Deranged, I was off my fucking. Deranged, I was off my fucking nut, man. Do you know what I mean? But those were beautiful moments, man, because I understood the music. I understood the music, or I thought, I understood the music from a straight person's point of view, and I also understood the music from being not straight. You know what I mean? On whatever drugs you were on, and I could make music both ways, and I could DJ both ways as well, and I could listen to music both ways, and I use that power to I use that ability. Do you know what I mean? So. I could be stone cold straight and write a tune and be happy with it, but I could also be off my face and write a tune. And wouldn't always work. Like, you know yourself, man, you can get up the next day and go, what the fuck was I thinking? And that's terrible. And then, but every now and then you'd write a tune and you'd go, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking at the time, in whatever weird induced fucking state I was in, kind of thing. And this is deranged, man. It's like, you know, I mean, it's really self-explanatory. It was like
But yeah, but that's the thing. It wasn't Wolf of Wall Street either, though. You know, it wasn't the idea like this is terrible, because it went out. It put out. It worked. For me. That's no more different than Captain Beefheart or Can. You know, when Can got into a studio, they'd spend like a week in a studio, and they'd all be on doing what they were doing. I mean, you know, I EQ'd Terminator on 20 pills with Mark, you know, with Mark, and that was a true story, that Mark could no longer see Creator going vertically in black and white, and I had to tell him where the boxes were, and we were EQing. I'd already done the arrangement. I knew that the arrangement was done. I knew that the prism of what people would call time stretch was really pitch control on the HF harmonizer. So the record was done. Yeah, the idea of even Terminator 2 was, this is what it might sound like if I'm off my head, you know, with pitch bending. But you see, that's the thing. You say that because I always remember my few times to Eclipse, carrying Randall's box in Eclipse, when I'd catch you playing what I call the Last Trains, which was the Last Trains era, I think. It's like Graffiti, the Trains, it turns to White Trains, it's the end of the era. Like, I caught you a few times at Eclipse when you had already been through the hedonistic probably 3 summers, when I was probably prancing around somewhere else in America, just coming back from the Midlands or whatever it was, where the Eclipse was at its pinnacle of, you know, doing a lot, and you would play out, and you would say, I just remember Sarah saying to me, I'm like, he's like, his eyes are running, so now he just plays, like, he'll play for hours, he'll play, and you just play. And I think that hedonism, for whatever reason, it's almost as hard to call it hedonism. I think experience, if you like, is what your thing was, I guess. And I think, you know, the Doctor, right?
it's a weird thing, man, because I can honestly say, I've said this in a few interviews. I didn't realize the magnitude of anything or what it meant to people. It's hard, you know me, it's hard for me to talk about my own stuff, and I find it difficult, you know, I find it difficult accepting praise, let alone giving myself any kind of credit. But I am aware, this far removed from it all, that there's a bunch of tunes that means a lot to a lot of people, and for that I'm forever thankful. You know what I mean? But I did, like I say, I did get to the end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s. I can remember vividly, man, thinking to myself, what the fuck? A, what the fuck just happened? And B, how did I write some of those tunes, man? Do you know what I mean? When I look back on it all, and they were all seminal moments at particular moments in time, like the rave, and then going into when rave split. Like, that's why I was really happy that guy chose Here Comes the Drums, the original, because I can remember writing that track, and my mindset was, I'm sick of fucking hearing pianos, man. I don't want to hear pianos anymore. Do you know what I mean? I'm done with all that shit. And I wanted to make the angriest fucking tune that I could. And, you know, the Public Enemy sample is apt, man, because I said this to Sarah the other day, because, you know, I hadn't even listened to that track for a long, long time. And I said to her, I can remember thinking, what would it be like if Public Enemy made not drum and bass tune, a rave tune? Do you know what I mean? That was kind of my mindset. What if Hank Shockley sat down, you know, with Chuck D, and they fucking say we want to make a kind of rave tune kind of thing? That's what Here Comes the Drums was supposed to be. So and then to hear that guy, the way he described it, like, you know, a wall of sound, you know, car alarm sirens, and what, you know, that's kind of what it was. And it was just like a big fuck off, man. I don't want to hear this fucking this happy shit anymore. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, I must have been really fucking angry. And the beautiful thing is, I can remember, you know, when I played it to you and Digo the first time, drove down, I think you'd called me, I think we'd only met like 2 or 3 times before that.
We only met a couple of times. We met at Music Power, Music Power.
And it was, yeah, and went to Rage, and, you know.
Well, that was the second time, because when you came down and met the Music Power, you went back. And then you came to the flat, and what happened was, I took you to meet Digo and Mark,
Yeah.
and then what had happened is, you know, here comes the drums. We still know I was brokering this whole situation, but I remember that it was. You remember because you came down and I took you to Rage, but you came before we went to Rage, and I remember you'd made another tune. And it was Dark Angel,
Right.
and it was like I wanted it, but I couldn't ask for it, and I made the labels for it. And
Right.
it went to Rage with a normal label I'd sprayed in funky colours, but it came back because Groove Rider had played it with Terminator, and we were
Right.
off our nuts, and we were leaning against the podium, and he mixed Angel and Terminator, and I looked at you, and I remember it clear as day. And this is what raconteuring is what folklore is, or people would say in South Park, remember berries, but there are some that are apt.
Yep.
And the tune was no longer mine, and the tune was no longer yours. And we just hugged it out, and we drove back in the car, just like, I don't know what it was almost like it was a car of silence. And I got back, and I remember sticking the head on it. And that was it. It was a done deal for that EP. And you said you're going to finish it off or whatever else. Because that was a really big moment for me. Drums Original sounded like if when B-Boys had ultimate style, and the way that and I always remember when I'd heard Deranged and these tunes, and when I saw you, I thought the guy that's made this, before I saw you, the guy that's made this music has got to be black, built like a brick shit house, and he's just fucking dark and mean. And he was white, ponytail with really big blue eyes. And I thought to myself, why could you even think like that? Because when you saw Trains in New York, you know what kind of trains they were. You built up this idea of what greatness was. You know, you look at trains, you go, oh my God, look at how much fucking art. And you go, you don't say, is it a black Hispanic train or a Cuban train or Afro-American train? It's just a set of people that are making music. So that went out the window for me because it changed the way that urban black music or music of black origin was seen. Because all of a sudden the waterline changed, and this set of music was, I hadn't, you know, really done anything. I was doing just an Ajax project with B in Iceland. And it had a massive impact on me. And I think we'd reinforced, always being reinforced in that university of reinforced. It was the first music outside of the camp that I was, through the artwork, I was opening up this channel to charge it in there. Do you know what I mean? And that's what was important to me. I mean, Here Comes the Drums is, for the record, and people know this, my all-time, the original. Drums 95 too, because that was Blue Note's Crowning Glory. But Drums Original is probably the one tune I'd put that Satin Storm and Terminator in a pod and send it into space, and just go work that one out.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite one. It's the, like I say, I can remember driving to Dollis Hill, you and Digo getting in the car, and I had it on tape, and put the tape in. We were driving. I think we were driving down Kilburn Road, and I think you or Digo said, "Stop the car! Stop!" I can't remember which one. It's probably you. You said, "Stop the car," or Digo said, "Stop the car," and you both got out. I remember sitting there. I think it was like the blue or the brown Sierra. I can't remember.
It was the blue one.
The blue one.
I bought the blue. Remember, I bought my Sierra off you.
I know you did. And so what was this? This was like spring of '92, I guess, something like that.
Wow.
And,
yes.
And I can remember you both got out of the car, and I thought, "Fuck, I've blown it." Fucking, so, fuck, I've blown it, man. That's it. Fucking, it's absolute two for now, forever.
Simon will never forgive me. He's never forgiven me for Rage, for telling him Doc Scott is no longer with you. He's on Reinforced, and that's the end of it. You know, he's never forgiven me.
Yeah,
and Simon, if you're watching this, namaste. But remember, man, you know, I caught the Eurostar with him to go and play a gig in Europe, like about maybe 5-6 years ago. And he got on the train and wouldn't sit anywhere near me. And we got off the train and he walked on the other side of the road to the same hotel. Never forget it. He's never forgiven me.
Listen, I love Simon, man. Yeah, listen. But yeah, those tracks were meant to be on Reinforced. Do you know what I mean? And though I say this all the time, man, that period, 92 to 94, being in and around you guys, and then what you were doing, and those fucking long, all those hours you were doing, experimenting, fucking around with sounds, and I'd come down there and sit in for an hour and hear what you were doing. just doing,
Well,
you know,
you
making
because you
hours.
came to a few sessions, the expo sessions we called them, when I was just moving stuff on back to the desk and
Yeah. And then, like, you know, a couple of those ones slipped in the bag, and I took it back and made a loop out.
have you still got some of them things at home?
Yeah, probably somewhere.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But you know, and like you say, well, you know, and it was, I mean, this conversation is so apt, man, because you know, they are celebrating 30 years.
Yeah.
Literally 2 days ago, we just put that post out about the artwork, and you commented, I think, what do you say, university? You know what I mean?
It's the university press.
What's what it is, man. It's like everything, for me anyway, for me personally, for DJing, Fabio Grooverider, Derek May, pretty much where I learned, you know, I'm a combination of those. It's pretty much where I learned everything that I needed to learn before I set off on my own journey. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, I heard those, you know, lots of other people, obviously. Those three are the foundations of who I am as a DJ. And then what I learned at Reinforce, I mean, I've made you know, I stumbled into making music by accident, really. I mean, the first track, Surgery, I didn't even know what the fuck I was doing, man, really. And then put that out, and it went to #3 in the dance charts, which was
Crazy.
fucking so weird. Yeah, it's really weird, you know. And I can remember I sent it to Excel because I had it on dub plate and I was playing it, and I thought, this sounds pretty good as far as my knowledge back then of tunes. It sounds all right, kind of thing.
Which was the one with, it's had the ecstasy.
No, Surgery, the original, where I sampled Metalheadz and just drilled it over. It's like, it's a techno tune, really. It's a techno track. And I sent it to Excel, and they came and they messaged me back, because that was the only person really I knew who thought of who to send it to. And they said, oh, we've just signed SL2 and we've just signed the Prodigy. We haven't got room for anything at the moment.
Wow. And
which was pretty good going. And then it was released, and it went to #3 in the dance chart. And I think at that time, I've got a magazine of it somewhere. #1 was the Prodigy, #2 was SL2, and then #3 was Surgery in the top, in the dance top 40 dance tracks.
Wow.
And then I can't remember who it was at Excel at the time, phoned me and said, whatever you make next, please send it to us. Do you know what I mean? Because we, you know, and I think they signed Johnny L, and then I went to Reinforced. But
I'm so glad you did.
Oh, dude, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And then, but those 92 to 94, that period at Reinforced, in and around you guys and everything you were doing, that's where I learned. That gave me the confidence and the knowledge to go on and write everything else that I wrote during the 90s, whether it be, you know, obviously something Last Action Hero.
But it was typical because it's the same.
Everything, man. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's where I learned. And those were the happiest days of my life as well, making music. Those 2 years, man. It was so much fun. You know what I mean? It didn't have to think about jack shit. You know.
Yeah, I think the thing with you, that Dark Angel, because that was the thing for me where you switched yourself on. It was like a button had switched, and I think for you it was, you know, you were at that point where you kind of did have this confidence. And when Dark Angel dropped, it was like the official, like, second Reinforced, the follow-up. For me, that was a follow-up of all follow-ups as a record, because it just, for me, epitomised styling. It was like, you know, it was like a motif, and it was like, it was fucking with the music so badly for me that I really lost my shit. So I would listen to that record continually over. I'd get the cassette off you, I think, and I kept listening to it and listening to it and listening to it, and I couldn't wait for it to get on vinyl. And it was just like that, like you said, that era and the 92 shirts that we made, and the crew mentality and the idea.
Did that have the ecstasy vocal in it, in the breakdown, or was that a different track?
I think it had a similar take of it, because that vocal track really murdered me. But Angel, for me, Dark Angel just, it's how I felt at the time, and it spoke to me.
It's also that track as well, beats wise as well, very heavily influenced by Living Dream. Do you know what I mean? Because they were the first person I heard that did that loop and then just clipped it at the end, but not do a full loop. You know what I mean? And when I first heard that, and it's such a simple idea, and I think I had Groove play like one of the first kind of living, you know, when they were first just giving out dub plates and everything. And it was before New Styley, but they did it before that. They did that Amen, and then they just clipped the end of the loop. And I heard it, I was like, that's so simple, but it's so fucking clever.
Just
Do you
raw.
know what I mean? Yeah, and I think part of me as well was I think it was because they couldn't get loops in time as well. You know what I
That's
mean?
part
Because
of it. I mean, it's the same
yeah,
as when you listen to, you know, Two Shot, Two Wounded, you know, Warrington the Snowman. That set of tunes, I was on that set of tunes, and I said to Groove, these are the hithers. They're the tunes that are just dirty. They're just, and the crowd would change. All the happy people just kind of disappeared, and it really made a rain. It was darkcore for me. It became this whole thing that changed the urban jungle, and it moved. But I mean, on the back of that, without going too far into it, that thing at Rage for me, at that point of Terminator, because it was a seminal tune, and Dark Angel was for me seminal in its own right. Those two tunes becoming the idea of DJ Ethic and someone else owning it, and we were looking at Groove Rider and Feather like gods. Let's face it, for me they were. It was a silhouette, and they were gods, and Derek May was your god, and you know, I became a box boy. I became Wendell's box boy. It was like, now I've made it and I'm carrying a box in a rave. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So for me, doing that was where it became, you know, we've become the stars all of a sudden, you know. And I felt that period of time, because it reinforced, you know, Primary Source came out, you know, underground software, and this crew mentality is stuck. And the idea of when Metalheadz first started, the head on one side with the R on the other side, it was the dub plate label, and that's what it was, and it's all it was going to be. It was the dub plate label, and then of course, you know, Rider's Ghost, you know, and the flip. You went, yeah, I'm going to give you a track for it, and we just fucking, and it was the beginning. You know, that was it. It was, you know, that for me was that was it, because it was. We had the blessing for Mark and Digo to break out. And you gave me the biggest leg up because it was this seminal release, and after that, it just went fucking. It just went nuts. The way that the idea of gone.
Yeah, I think also around that time as well, as my memory serves me, I know Digo, not so much Mark, but Digo was like getting a little bit tired of the rave and with the drum and bass kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And I think we both, especially, you know, yourself, figured, you know, felt like you kind of outgrown Reinforced in a way, and it was ready. You know, Metalheadz happened at the right time. Do you know what I mean? 001, 94, I think.
94.
First release, 94. I think
it was
when
94.
it first came out. I know the tracks were wrote in 93, you know, but I think the first release was 94, and then you know, and then you look at that 01 to 20 on Metalheadz is a fucking murderer's row of arguably some of the, you know, not arguably, some of the greatest D&B producers fucking ever, period. Do you know what I mean? And what you created and the platform you gave, which is basically, this is the same mentality, this is exactly the same mentality as Reinforced, which was come here, be safe, be free, fucking go nuts, man. Do you know what I mean? And look to the future and always push the boundaries, man. Do you know what I mean? Always try and that's what I love. You know me, man. When it comes to music, the music I dislike the most is not music that I think is shit. It's music I think is boring. You know what I mean? To me, boring is way worse. I would much rather say I'd really strongly dislike that tune. That's a much more positive emotion, if that makes sense, than me just saying that's boring. I can't even give you a reaction because that's just bland. Do you know what I mean? And Reinforced always encourage, anyway, at least to me, encourage me to, you know, to push the boundaries, man. And Metalheadz is the same. Metalheadz has always been the same. And that's, God bless you, man, to still have that mentality as a label. I mean, 25 years on.
Well, you said, you also said though, remember, let's talk about the parody. I became the parody because all of a sudden this thing blew up. And remember, that 2000 period was no easy ride for me either, because I was fucking doing way too much gear. I was fucking crazy as fuck. I'd flip someone over on a flip of a hat. I'd go mental. But the idea of the whispering in the ear of one of the labels, you got to get on with the art, just get on with the art. And of course, the idea of when Timeless came along, which is what this is about, the idea of these early, you know, that break. I was waiting outside Jazzy B's shop with a copy of Terminator to give to Jazzy B, knowing that he couldn't understand what this record was. this lime fucking head on a black background with this blue, this looks like a sky. I knew he was not going to get it. But he knew who I was. He knew Nelly. He knew that. He knew I was up in the Midlands. He knew the graffiti. He knew the b-boy stuff. But this was me. This is me. The changing of the fucking guard. And when I spoke to John Truelove this morning, who's in Ibiza, the guy that signed the record,
Right.
and it was that idea of I'm going to make this record. It's going to change it. But it wasn't just me. You know, people have always taken me the wrong way. They go, he's super aggressive. He's this and that. There's no white and grey area, mate. It's no white and black area. It's no grey area. It's white and black. It's very simple. The idea of pushing the boundaries is b-boy mentality. But furthermore, it wasn't me that made that record. It was a scene that made that record. I'm like, we're gonna have to change this so that you lot who think this music is not right, that we're gonna make you pay attention to what it is. You know, so Terminator EP for me, the biggest point was making this record on the back of Chris Biscuit, the first Reinforced Joints, outgrowing the label, respectfully stepping out and going, "Bang, here's Ghost for you." And I'm going to go and do these two EPs. It was Terminator EP, Knowledge for the North, Sinister, Dark, you know, like the dubby dark, you know, it's Terminator, technically going to take you all out. And the idea of flipping into Angel, you know, Chemistry, of course, because Kemi at the time, seeing Kemi, but the idea of Angel and the follow-up, it was such a record that when you got this 4-track EP, which had everything, and it's fucking hard to top that record. But what was making the motion was the fact that Diane came along. She tested it out on Chemistry. You know, she was working with John, she was working with Howie. So I had the idea of, you were sick of pianos, I was sick of helium fucking vocals. Right. So there was always this cause and effect, and it's happening on both sides of pushing that dark core. And when Angel was done, the thing that got it kind of like, oh my God, this vocal's too real. It was a bit like hiring the keyboard that made Mentasm. It's like, ew, it sounds too real. It sounds like it's a synth. Because of the sample technology we'd have, it was dirty, and he was backwards, he was grainy, he was 8-bit, 16-bit. And there's a theory with this stuff, because we don't know what the theory is until you look back on it.
Sure.
If you're a DJ, you can always cast away that theory because you're a fucking DJ, because you play many a record. But if you make music and you make conceptual music, you know, I've had to deal with music over the shoulder of another guy when it was going black and white with Creator. You might hate my fucking God. I don't give a fuck. I care about you. I might love me to bits. But the idea of looking over the shoulder of another guy and vicariously dragging the best out of that person to make the record with a bunch of samples that you have and you will not let go of, and I ain't going to leave it in the studio for you, mate. This is what you're using. You're going to use it there, there, and there. That was also a challenge, but it was also a type of fucking sadism too. You know what I mean? Like, I've got to work that to get some guy on playback going, I don't get what you're trying to do. I don't get it. It's not. I'm looking at the screen. It doesn't. I'm like, look, just fucking put it there. Put that one there. Why not have a listen to it now? And they go, oh yeah, okay. But I got that because Mark and Digo went, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Just do that. It's going to work. And of course, the ability to expand, because I was already working with Mark Rutherford on a 1000 when we were still using 950s. So I'm like, I was filling those shits up really quickly. Right, reinforced, aerosol can, mentality, fuck. So blue, okay, take the nozzle off, put the thing on there. You can make a pink with white and red, okay. So put it to that, create 4 sounds. You got an extra track then, you're going to get 3 tracks free. Just put that on a loop. Yeah, great, then we can do it again. You know, because the ability of what reinforced, they were technically behind, but these other guys on the overground couldn't edit.
Sure.
No, I got to pull these 2 fucking worlds together. You know what I mean? But the point of Timeless was that now Pete Tong's on the radar and all these other fuckers on the radar, all these people on the radar, and I've got to really, on the back of these 2 EPs, go into this thing. But the thing that saved, like I said, the thing that kind of saved Angel with this vocal that was too real was Saint Angel. When Ryder heard that, that was, for me, I was in your Sierra, in King's Cross, at the station, at the lights. He was in a red Mercedes 190. That was, oh my God, a red 190 Mercedes. I saw him put the cassette in, lean over his big fat head in the back of the, and then I see him lean back, and I just see this, And then I just see this, and then he opens the door and gets out and walks over to the car, and I'm like trying to wind your window down like this in Scottish, your Sierra, winding the window, and he just says, "Ah, it's fucking." He left the door open on the car, but the idea of what that did for the confidence that was the confidence I needed to think, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep trying to top it. How am I going to fucking top it? It gave me the idea to go, fuck it, there's going to be a record deal here, and I can take these tunes and kind of rejig them, because as Randall says, the answer phone messages started, and I was no longer the box boy. I was not going to go out anymore. I was staying in. I was getting it done, you know, and Playford was paramount. But you know what? I've got this stuff, so I'm going to edit this as well, Kian. I've got this stuff, and it's third party. What was your experience of coming down and hearing, like Terminator, for example, the first time you heard it, and where do you think it was going? That's question number one. And then when that fizzled and Saint Angel came, did you think we could go into album mode? I just need you to.
Well, when I first heard Terminator, I mean, this is how we were communicating through Groove Rider, subconsciously. Do you know what I mean? And
Groove would play your music. Groove would play your music, and I'd go, "Why didn't he go Doc Scott?" I'm like,
yeah.
"Fuck." I mean, we're going to meet him. He went, "I don't know, man, but I know he comes down sometimes to Haringey."
And then, that time, the times you were talking about before at the Eclipse, more often than not, Groove would have the last set. I mean, they were the first club. They were the only club in the country that had an 8 o'clock license at the time. Just fucking incredible. You know what I mean? And I usually played 8 o'clock license.
You hear that, kids? You can play music at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly. And I usually played anywhere between 4 and 5 o'clock. And in Groove would pretty much have the last set because he'd played a couple of times somewhere else. And that was his place. And he'd roll in at, 6:30, 6:45, whatever. And I would always be there because I was a fucking disciple at that time. We all were. You know what I mean? And but he was gonna come with some shit, man. Do you know what I mean? Always, man. His intro would always be fucking, what the fuck is this tune? Never heard anyone play this tune.
Wow.
I can remember when I first heard Terminator, and I didn't even know. I can remember being confused more than anything. Do you know what I mean? I knew it was fucking good, but my limited production brain was hearing things and thinking, hang on, what the fucking hell's going on here, man? You know what I mean? And then before I was trying to figure it out, it was on to the next tune. And then I heard Groove play it again, and then I managed to get a tape, a set that it was on. And then just listening to it and just going, and then I think that was the first time, because I had a very unique relationship with Groove where I can always remember way back in the day, a rave called Ektos, I think it was. This is like 91. And, I think like I had his kind of respect, or a bit of respect, do you know what I mean? But I always remember this vividly. We was this big fucking rave down in Bristol area, and him calling me on, like saying, come on here. And he put his record box down to sit on his record box, and he just said to me, check this out. And he did for his intro tune. And I was sitting there like fucking, I was probably 19, 20 at the time, thinking, fucking hell, Groove Riders just called me up onto the stage. And he played it. He had the Joey Beltram remix of Dominator, No Dominator. And he played that as his first tune. And then he turned around to me and just smiled, you know what I mean? And got on with it. Do you know what I mean? And that's the kind of relationship, I had, and that's the time when I just started making music and everything. So I had this confidence then where I could ask him. Every now and then I would ask him the name of a tune. You know what I mean?
Whatever you did back then, when it's to ask a DJ the name of a tune was like,
yeah.
Like, you don't ask.
No, and especially Groove, right? And then and there's always like at that period especially, there was always like at least 10 tracks where like I want to know what it is, but you know what I mean. And I can remember that I think the first time I ever asked him the name of a tune was one time in the Eclipse. I was probably fucking super pilled up, and I was just like, so I've got to ask him. And that was One Tribe, Get Hype. He's playing it, man, and I turned around to somebody and I was like, I've got to ask him. I can't. And I think they went to stop me as well. And I was like, I don't care, man. I was like, what's this tune? And then afterwards he took it off and he showed me the label, and I was like, thank you. You know what I mean? And I think Terminator might have been the second time like the balls to go and ask him like, what, you know, it's like, what the fuck is this tune? And then, you know, he told me what it was. And then there was a couple, and then I think that was maybe, no, I think it was the second time because I'd asked him before. And then your name came up and I was like, okay, well, who the fuck is Goldie, man? Because I kind of know people that are making music. I don't know who the fuck is this person and how they're making such amazing music. And then he like, and then go back to what you said earlier, which was that time, I think I was in Music Power and Groove came in with you. I can't remember the exact chronological how it was.
Groove would come around the back and I would go there with Kemi and Storm and they said that you were there. That's Doc Scott. Kemi said, right. He's Doc Scott, that's him, that's Doc Scott. And Groove would come for his local drop to go and pick up his tunes. And he was a bit like, oh my God, Doc Scott and Groove right at the same time. And we got introduced. And then Kemi and Storm introduced us. And that, you know, it was that. And I think the only other time was I think we went somewhere on Thursday night where it was Elevation or something where it was
Elevation. That was do you know what? That time at Club Dada's, I think it was.
Club Dada on Shaftesbury Avenue.
Shaftesbury Avenue. That was, for me, that was when I felt, because my thing was, I wanted to break into London at that time. If you weren't from London as a DJ,
you ain't playing.
You ain't playing. You know what I mean? It's fucking no-go. So fucking hard to break into London. Making some tunes, Groove Rider playing my stuff, Groove Rider and Fabio, Frost. Getting onto Reinforced was my foot in the door. And I can remember playing at Elevation. It was one of the very first time, maybe the first time I ever played in London. Yep. And you were there. And there was and I was so fucking nervous, and I never really got nervous, man, and DJing. Do you know what I mean? But I knew what the opportunity. I knew the moment in time. I knew how important it was. It was like, fuck this up, man. You know, you're done, or it's going to take you another 5 years to try and get your foot in the door, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I can remember going on, and I did a mix, and we'd come from Metropolis because I had 4 tracks of yours on dubplate, on a 12-inch dubplate, and I mixed one of my tunes with one of your tunes, and you ran up to the decks. This is coming back to me now, and this was like 1992, and it was one of the first times, if not the first time, at least the proper first time I played in London. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, here's this kid from up north.
I remember it now. Yes.
I mean, and I can't remember the 2 tunes, but I mixed because at the time. When the 4 tracks were complete for Reinforced, Dark Angel, Here Comes the Drums, Mayday. I can't remember.
I think it was Mayday.
Yeah, and what was the other one? Was that
the fourth one?
Let's Go remix? Or was that
Go.
on the other?
Yeah, it was Let's Go. It was Let's Go.
Right. And we'd done some Metropolis.
Fucking hell.
And then I had that on one dub plate. 4 tracks on one dub plate, and then I had 4 tracks of yours on another. And I remember mixing one of those. I can't remember the mix, but I can remember mixing one of yours and one of mine together, and it fucking went off. And I was like, "Yeah,
I mean,
you passed your fucking, your entry examination." Kind of thing.